right. Hello. Welcome back to Dev Up. My name is Juniper. I'm super excited to jump into this episode. This is going to be a little bit of a merged episode, go into a bit of story time as to why, but we're going to cover a bunch of awesome things, some game updates, how we make some of the cards, go over that quickly, and what's next for our card game projects. I'm joined with Dan today. Going to talk all about it. Sup, Daniel? How's it going?
Hello, everybody. I'm doing perfectly fine. This is going to be a really fun episode to kind of dive into because, would you tell us about what happened? I know that it's been a little bit since our last update on our card games and the topics that we want to talk about. I'm doing good, honestly, but I know we have quite a lot to catch up on today.
Yes.
Can you tell us what happened?
Well, okay. Look, guys, hear me out for a second. Hard drives are a funny thing. Hard drives are a really funny thing. You may have noticed that we're currently sitting on October 11th by the time we're recording this. Our previous upload was a couple weeks ago. So what sort of happened was I had the recordings for the Dev Up episodes on my hard drive. I had them recorded, all ready to go. And then I sort of was in the process of working on my computer and was backing up my files on my hard drive. Great, smart choice. Do that every time. Please back up your stuff. I then realized after I had done a bunch of updates that the hard drive that I put the footage on was the same hard drive I flashed and got rid of all the files on.
Oh no.
And so unfortunately we did not have a backup of those episodes. So our beautiful ways of discussing some topics might be lost to time, unfortunately, but I really appreciate listeners out there jumping in for this episode, and hopefully we can recap and go over a lot of stuff. But if you're ever changing operating systems and backing up your files, make sure that you don't mix up which flash drive you're trying to use. It's a really good lesson learned. But hopefully this reflects that we're just two guys going on a journey, making games and doing things, and sometimes we might misprint some cards. We might sort of make some design decisions that are questionable. We might remove all the files of our hard drive. Episodes.
Definitely. No one's perfect. We make mistakes, and from those mistakes we learn.
Yes.
I definitely remember a setback where all of my art files for Chilijack were on my iPad, and one day on my way out of the garage to go back inside, I literally it started slipping from my hand, and I tried to catch it, but in the meantime I somehow ended up flipping it over, and then I smacked it down as if I was spiking a volleyball into the ground. So it just went 35 miles per hour into the ground. I picked it up, and obviously the screen was just completely smashed, and I couldn't see it. I couldn't turn it on or anything like that. Luckily I was able to kind of go try to transfer it by connecting it to a PC. I was able to recover the art files and things like that, but man, that was a couple $100 just down the drain. I had to get a whole new iPad so that I could start working on drawing more. So I learned not to spike my iPad onto the ground anytime I can help it next time.
You were a volleyball player in your past life or something? Just came out?
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh man. Oh well.
It all happens.
It does happen. But super apologize for people, and thank you for coming back in for this episode. Hopefully from now we can get back to regular scheduled climbing of mountains and development. But we have been working on the games quite a lot in that time, so there's a lot we can go over. So let's dive in. I'm super keen to hear all about some wonderful updates from you, Dan. Chilijack, how's it going? How has your journey up the mountain been in these past few weeks?
Oh my gosh, yeah. In the past few weeks, we went over a couple of these things, and I'm just gonna cover them briefly. it's been going great. So first of all, we're gonna start all the way onto the left here. We have the beautiful box art finished by our wonderful artist Zillers, who's been helping us on Chilijack and on Divine Engage. And yeah, this box art is gonna be pretty much what I use to when I eventually self-publish the game. This is gonna be the art that's gonna be on the cover of the box art. Very, very excited. It really captures the spirit of Chilijack really well, I think, with all the cute characters, the food that's just kind of exploding outwards, and even like the symbols of each of the chili types in the bottom here. Yeah, so I can also go talking about like the process of commissioning an artist and how that works. Which we'll get into a little bit later as we talk about like the next steps for our games and things like that. And then a little bit more to the right side here, we have a lot of new chilies getting added into the game and also getting reworked. So this will also kind of tie into that. So I have 145 chilies in the game now.
What?
Yes, 9 of these on the top.
You didn't say 45, you said 145.
Yes, 145 chilies in the game. That is quite a lot of chilies. That is actually, if you are ever releasing a card game, you don't want to release too much at the same time. But the reason why I had to kind of make so many of them and playtest them and balance them all together is because I'm going to be releasing the base game alongside 3 other expansions at the same time. It all kind of feeds into the strategy where basically I want to have a base game that's very affordable for the players to buy and try out the game. And if the game is really fun and they can get into like other expansions and stuff, that's going to be available alongside them right away. That way, when I release the game, it's going to be yeah, they have players have options. Sometimes they're not going to want to buy everything that's included in the game. They just want to buy a set theme. Sometimes there's like these strategies, and maybe one expansion is more focused on like randomness and things like that, so they want to buy the random one. They can. Yeah, the original plan of including all these chilies in one box and making them very expensive was, I think, definitely like it would have been too overwhelming for a lot of players to get into. So I'm dividing them into smaller sections. But yeah, that's sort of why I have so many chilies. And yeah, a couple just like really cool new chilies that I want to kind of talk about here. We have this new chili blacksmith, which reveals the top 3 chilies of the deck. It tucks one under one of your chilies and then trash the rest. A very simple ability where you get to reveal 3 and then do stuff. People love revealing 3 random things and then doing them. It's like a kind of like a roguelike element here. But tucking something is usually like in my game, it's kind of like the same as like equipping a weapon or eating something, like getting ready. And a card that also really like I thought was thematically appropriate and works really well is this Excalibur, where when this is tucked under any card, it doubles that card's heat and heat of all the chilies under as well. So yeah, obviously you're gonna want to find this using the blacksmith so that you can double the heat of one of your chilies. It's really cool synergy right there. And then the little pun of the name Excalibur, but like Excalibur. And then this Choo Choo Chili is one that I'm like really kind of proud of for the design. I knew that I wanted to have some kind of like a high impact, really funny chili that you can just snap down and then we'll do something funny and players will kind of be like choo choo, like it's just gonna like run over your chili and then have something cool happen. So I decided to put a train into the game, and but basically what it does is it trashes someone else's hottest chili, and then this will just force itself onto that plate, and then it's gonna also serve you one random chili. So it's just like really fun to kind of action happening on top of this like random thing that you're looking forward to. Yeah, things like that is just like what I'm really excited about. I think Chilijack is now with like 145 chilies in the game. I feel really happy with where it is, and I'm gonna start going into seriously going into play testing and balancing and all those stuff. Gonna have like weekly balance updates and stuff like that. Down here we just have a bunch of reworks. I can't go over every single one of them because there's so many, but a lot of the chilies that players were kind of giving me feedback about, like whether they were too a little bit like awkward to play, or their abilities didn't feel that exciting, I tried to make them as smooth and like fun as possible while keeping the spirit of like randomness and like balance, all those things in there. Like the chaos chili, for example, it was just kind of like meh before, but now it like swaps the dish and activates its setup ability, which can do some crazy stuff. Or the divine chili, which is one we should probably talk about, because this is like a collaboration between our games. I know that you also have a divine chili in your game as well, Juniper. Yeah, this one's just like a very, very flavorful, cool chili that lets you swap a chili from your hand with a plate, like in a different type. So basically, if you have one type, you can swap it into another.
Not that bias, but I do like that chili, because I like that it plays into the other types. It's not an abundance of chilies that really like handle typing. So it's really cool to see that in the game.
Yeah. Thank you. I think every chili in my game is trying to do something a little bit different, or trying to be a little bit unique. There are, of course, chilies that like let you draw two, and then another chili is gonna be like draw two, but then trash one of them and stuff.
Yeah.
But usually I'll always kind of look at a theme. For example, this cosmic chili, and think about what would a black hole do, and it's just gonna consume itself and another hottest chili, and just really make it so that no other chili feels quite like this. So yeah, it's been challenging, but getting all these chilies designs to kind of feel really like right, definitely took a long time to do. I think I've been working on this game for about a year and 10 months now, so almost hitting that 2 years.
We're getting close. We're getting close. I have a really interesting question about Excalibur. Because I played Chilijack recently, and I'm sorry to listeners out there if you haven't played Chilijack yet. Yes, I'm flexing. I get to play it before you. It's okay. But if you do want to come play it, you can come check the Discords down in the description, and get to the top and come in and have some fun. I'll cook you with my chilies. But when I was playing, I've been playing with the tuck chilies a little bit, and something that happens in Chilijack in the game is when you tuck a chili under it, the tuck chili loses its ability. And so I did kind of think about a chili idea when we were talking, Dan, and I thought about one that can buff a chili when it's underneath it, but I thought, maybe that doesn't work, because the ability gets taken away when it tucks underneath. But interestingly, I'm curious as your thoughts to Excalibur here, Excalibur, what is like, do you feel like you'll run into this consistency issue around Excalibur?
Yeah, that's a good question. And this is something that I actually thought about before, because usually when you tuck something under another chili, as I could kind of demonstrate right here on Figma, where let's say that we do have Chili Blacksmith reveal 3 chilies, and one of them was Excalibur. And we are able to kind of tuck the Excalibur under the blacksmith itself like this. Usually whenever we tuck another chili over, we tuck it like this, where the heat is showing like this. So now this chili blacksmith would have 13 heat with the choo-choo chili underneath it. But when we stack or tuck the Excalibur underneath, obviously we're gonna get to see the 0 here, but the ability will not be there anymore. So what I did here is actually add in a little ×2 flame on the top here, so that when players are tucking these chilies underneath, they're able to see all those numbers, and they'll see the ×2. So it's easy for them to kind of look at that, like, oh right, I gotta like multiply everything by 2 here. This is a little bit different from other chilies, such as Count Caligula, which is right here. You'll see this +5 on the kind of like below the flame of the heat. When you tuck, I don't know if I just moved the whole thing over. Okay. Yeah, when you tuck the Count Caligula below like this, it's not gonna have the +5 underneath like that, because it's part of the ability. So yeah, this ×2 being on the top, like to the next to the heat,
cool
helps
solution.
you remember.
That's a like, I didn't even actually realize or recognize that as the solution. I just sort of read the card ability and had that thought. But I did think that flavor chilies, I was like, well, surely they could do something when tucked. So I'm super happy that you explored that idea. And I think that is a really cool way of doing it, showing the ×2. That's a really nice solution. I like that.
Thank you. It just kind of sort of worked out, and honestly, this is something that I discovered because I actually play tested this in person, and I tried to design this game to be made to be played in person as much as possible, so that when you actually play it in real life, you're like tucking chilies underneath, and you don't want to be like constantly taking out a chili to read an ability. Usually you want to keep it as simple as possible. So there was like a time where I kind of wanted to try adding tokens into the game. So it's kind of like, imagine the Pokemon TCG where you have the little damage counters, like the -10s and the -50s, using that to modify the heat of your chilies, and that gave me a lot of flexibility in design space. But it kind of added on this like really tacky tokens that you had to carry on with you whenever you played the game, and ultimately it just wasn't something that I liked the idea of, like my game having these like tokens inside. So rather than that, I tried to use my other cards as tokens to like tuck them underneath to modify their heat and things like that. And this is just like one way to do it. I think there's, not saying that there's like other ways that you can, but when I changed the flavored chilies to kind of act like they are the cards that interact with your other chilies in interesting ways, this was just one of the designs that really stood out as I could do. So thank you. This was really fun. I can't wait to kind of test this out and see how it plays out.
Oh, dude, I'm gonna destroy some chefs with a sword. It's coming. I'm sorry. That's amazing.
Looking forward to it.
That's super cool.
Yeah. Well, keep me updated. Thank you. So there's so many things happening with Chilijack, but I know that you've also been cooking on the Divine Engage front. So what's been going on?
Oh man, there's so much stuff. Again, apologize for audio listeners having to do a lot of catch up, but thank you guys for listening through. Hopefully we can ride the hype from Chilijack into some Divine Engage shenanigans. So last time we checked out the games and we played through the games. It was really fun, and there was a lot of really cool and interesting things. Since then, I've been doing heaps of playtesting, heaps of designing, talking to a bunch of people, and trying to boil down to a really core set of 54 cards and 3 divines that just play perfectly, which is a bit of a mish, but I think that taking you guys through updates, it will be clear that we've definitely cooked in some direction. So starting with some updates, a bunch of cards, we've had Zillerus, who has come through and is only 8 cards away from completing all of the art in the game, which is so exciting. So in the next few weeks, we're going to have all the art finalized. The game will be in a really, really solid state, and this is some of the art you can see that they've cooked up. And a really interesting note with Eno recently, and I'm going to just quickly squiz over to my little Divine Engage document here to grab their newer artwork, because we did sort of patch their art a little bit. We sort of looked at Eno, and some of the feedback was it kind of looks like Mew from Pokemon. And I was like, well, that's valid. It kind of does. I can't lie. And so Hakeem, really awesome person, helps out on design and in the community for things. Came up with a really cool idea of what if it's a doll that has come to life instead. And so talked to Zillerus about this idea, and we sort of patched the design to now be this awesome kind of haunted doll character, which is pretty awesome.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah.
So
that's sweet.
Yeah, it's been some great art updates. And we're going to be talking about next steps for the game very soon. And with that, I sort of developed out some guide cards for the game, ways to try and express and teach the game to players in a really small, compact way. So having a reference when you're playing of what beats what, what does power and runes kind of mean, and just trying to compact down the game into a teachable sense. So if you ever need the guide card and the reference when you're starting to play, then that's cool. Going into, I guess, like the project updates and where things have headed, I set a bit of a crazy goal for myself. So those 54 cards in the core set, I wanted to have done by the 10th. Now we're recording on the 11th, and thankfully we can see there's a little tick mark here because I have managed to finish the design for all of the TTS game patch by around the 10th/the 11th, I guess like around the same day. So as we're recording this, the patch is now going to be live and patched through. So the next day I'm going to make the written announcement saying it's all up to date, which I'm super excited for. And so now we have 3 divines, Fenna, Locke, and Zephyr, and 54 follower cards that you can all now play with, deck build with, and jump in and have fun. So over the next month, until the start of November, we are going to let the patch run live and do a bunch of playtesting. And at the start of November, we're going to run Lunar Festival 2, which is the game's official tournament. So if you are super keen on a TCG that is like rock, paper, scissors on crazy mode, sort of has some Yu-Gi-Oh vibes, then come along and have some fun. Check out the tavern in the description below. You can join in and check it out. But yeah, I guess with like in terms of the game's actual design, there was this really wonderful piece of feedback that I got recently around intentionality, and it came from a person who has worked on the Hearthstone project from Blizzard, and they kind of gave some more obvious advice or ideas, but it was cool to actually get somebody to have a look at the game, boil it down to their formulaic thoughts, and just say, hey, go in and do this intentionally, which was draft your abilities for the game to match a sort of flow that you're going for, and be a bit more intentional about it, and actually lay it out and see, does this fit into the structure? Is there any cards that don't really fit? Do we need to tweak? And they sort of boiled my game down to this cool triangle that you can see up here, where they assessed that you have power, ability, and rune manipulation, and the less rune manipulation you have, the more power you're going to have, and the less power you have, the more ability you're going to have. And sort of it goes around in this triangle, and the divines play into this as well. And the expression was, design your cards really intentionally to fit along this triangle, and use this triangle to design your cards. And that was a really cool piece of feedback. And so I went through a bunch of the core set with this idea, and sort of sat down and had a look and thought about, okay, well, where does the power come from? What are abilities doing? How does it fit? And with the 3 divines especially, how do they play into these 3 areas in the triangle? And this let me arrive at this really, really awesome point where I can sort of bring in the new divine abilities. Take a look at them. So Zephyr has 18 health, and when you deal 6 damage within 1 turn, transcend. And so transcend means you turn over the card and unlock their awesome superpowered ability, and usually that can lead you towards your win condition. And for Zephyr, they are playing all towards your discarding abilities. Actions that trigger by discard happen twice. And so when you have an action that says, hey, when this is discarded, deal 2 damage, suddenly now you're dealing 4, and now you're gaining 4 runes, now you're doing a bunch of things. So he's got this big early game aggression, and it kind of leads into a lot of fun because your opponent can read into and work out how you're going to deal 6 damage within 1 turn. What runes do you have? What kind of cards might you have built into your deck? And it's kind of a fun interaction in the early game to sort of work out and play around, which is really cool. And so that's sort of an idea of how these divines can fit along this triangle of early game, mid game, and late game. So a mid-range character is Venner. When you have drawn 10 cards, you start with 4 out of a deck of 15. Then you can transcend, and runes you reach 6 of are permanent and cannot be reduced. And so as you're drawing cards, what you're going to be doing is using the draw keyword and focusing on that, but you're going to be drawing into rune gain cards and trying to play a lot of those. And so this sort of sets you up for the mid game to be pretty strong. You've drawn a lot of resources, and now you can start fighting. And in the late game, you've got lock. You need 10 runes total to transcend, and so you have to get that through playing cards, gaining runes, and it takes a few turns to get there, even when you're trying to force it. However, his transcend ability is all of your damage is doubled, and so you get this big late game burst. And so I've sort of positioned up the divines to fit into these different styles. So that's sort of where that's sitting now.
I love that. I love these new designs for the divines. It really like helps you think about what are some ways I can play into this, and there's definitely different ways to go about it. Like you can either deal 6 damage by having a bunch of runes and just like slapping them with like one big number, or trying to combo them with a bunch of different abilities at the same time, like discarding something while winning like a divine engage. Hey, look at that, that's the name of the game. I think this is super cool to try to like figure out what's the best synergies with your follower cards and really try to like piece the deck together in unique ways. This is really exciting. I can't wait to try using these as the divines and the base set that you've created. By the way, congratulations on finishing that deadline that you set for yourself and making those 54 cards. That is definitely a huge achievement and not something that's like that should just be lightly glossed over. That's crazy, man. Well done.
Yeah, it was definitely not a solo effort. I think like even though we are the sole developers of these games and we're working on it, I want to again just give a huge shout out to Zillurus, the artist, who has just piled in so much effort on the art. It is done through commissions, but they kind of have gone that extra mile really within the commission, and they've done all these extra things that they didn't have to do, and they've put in just so much thought and detail into the design. So it's just a massive shout out to them and to Small Boss and Hakeem in the community, helping out on the design front, ideas, feedback, talking through those points, and to Dan as well, to you for going through these crazy ideas. Sort of we riff into the Discord calls heavily a little bit, so it's I think it's a bit of a crazy mission, but I like to say that we all got there.
Yes.
So I'm super hyped. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Likewise. Yeah. I mean, it's just, I'm always happy to climb alongside you. This is definitely a very, very arduous and long climb, but a very, very rewarding one at that. Actually, speaking of, so while we're climbing and we're going to the next milestones and achieving these huge peaks that we normally couldn't really get done, like how do we keep going from here? Where do you go from there? What are like your next steps for DE, and what's upcoming?
Yo, I mean, this is a great question, and I'm super happy to tackle next steps in the climb. I think it's like, at first we sort of talked a week or two ago around how do you know when you're finished the project and how do you see that peak, and I think we're now seeing we're arriving at this peak. I'm sort of hitting this milestone of all these designed cards, the card art's being finished, all of these things. And I guess like that's the question I've really been toying around with in my head, is like, what's going to be my next step? I've been finding it really hard to actually arrive at a definitive answer. There's kind of the idea of like the digital demo, to make a digital playable version floating around, sort of maybe work on that. There's the idea of maybe I should keep going down the print route. There's sort of ideas around, should I go into marketing and crowdfunding? And areas, and so like all these things have just been like swirling around in a pot while I've been developing up the cards, and I'm going, oh my gosh, I'm getting so close to this milestone. Like, what's gonna be next for me? And I think for me, like the main thing that has stuck out really has been marketing the game. I think that I can probably develop out the digital version. I could maybe print some more prototypes, but I think that a big thing for the game project is in sort of looking at how a lot of people launch things. And I don't see a lot of people launch stuff into like the void. Like, I don't see a lot of people go, I've made a game and launch it into empty air. I see a lot of effort where people set up marketing for themselves, and they shoutcast their ideas beforehand, and so they build up a group or a community as a foundation, and that's what they pitch into. And so I think for me, for my next steps with DE, is I'm super keen to start getting the game out there. I'm starting to think about what my content's going to look like. How am I going to film these upcoming playtests and use that footage as marketing for the game? How am I going to use the Lunar Festival 2 as a big kind of flagship way to market the game and say, hey, we just had this tournament, this is what the game looks like, you know? And I think that's going to be my next steps for the game. How do I capture the awesomeness and show it off to a bunch of people? How is that possible? How am I going, you know, do I need to simulate games through video editing? What do I need to do in that range? There's a lot of unanswered areas, and I think that maybe through our efforts we could dive into a topic of like marketing games. Would be really cool as we're like prototyping these ideas. That's sort of where I'm up to, is going to playtest the game, going to showcase the game, and then from there, like I said, digital demos, physical prints. There's a bunch on the horizon, but I think that's my next step. Kind of hooking my rope over the next cliff face and starting to climb up the ridge of marketing. So yeah, I'm super excited. I guess like in parallel for Chilijack, what is the next steps looking like for you? You've got a bunch of things going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think I could sort of say the same for Chilijack as well, and I kind of wish that I started the marketing process for Chilijack way earlier. My partner actually recommended when I first started working on the game to release like Instagram shorts and updates for the game as I worked on the game, so that I could build up this player base of people who could follow along the journey of like creating the card game, which is what I'm doing right now with Deva podcast. Partly is like I'm updating you guys with the state of the game and changes that are coming in, but I wish that I could have done that a lot sooner. So if you're starting right now with your card games, definitely recommend maybe like setting up a YouTube channel and just recording videos of you working on the game itself, or drawing the cards. I think that all is part of marketing too, because there's so many people out there who want to make their own card games and they're interested in like what you're doing, so they want to follow you along for the journey. But yeah, I have to start. So I got to this point where I have 145 chilies that are like really set for the game. So I'm at a point where I'm like actively looking for playtesters and people who can help balance and break my game essentially. And I've been like going back and forth, like reworking cards and putting them to the game, looking for more playtest feedback. And one of my playtesters in the XKume, he creates these wonderful like tier list videos where he puts all the chilies into different tiers. So videos like this is like super fun. It's very interesting to see different people's takes on which cards feel good and which feel really OP, and then which ones are absolutely trash. So I can take that and be like, okay, let me tweak some balance here and there. I'll do that and then go back to TTS and like edit the abilities and stuff and like play test with them. And when I feel like it's finally at a place where maybe it's like good enough to actually print out a mock-up copy, I'll go to a local FedEx store and just like make these paper cut versions of my cards. And I know that this is like something that I like to do because it's like the closest thing to having your actual game out there. Well, it's not the closest thing. It's like the second closest thing to having your actual game out there. But playing it in person is something that I always do before I like say that the design is done, because playing the game in person just to cover any like weird areas where like I didn't think that this would happen when you're playing in person. Like some players will opt into doing something less because, like, let's say for example shuffling your cards is something that people really hate to do in real life, rather than in Tabletop Simulator you could just press the R button to randomize your cards. Or thinking about like, hey, I have like a bunch of different zones. As you can see in this like old screenshot that I have here, there's still the grill and the freezers. When freezers were in the game, I kind of just assumed the players will put their cards on top of the freezers, but playing it in person made me realize that if they don't have these like extra cards to indicate where their locations are, it's gonna be very like clunky to play with. So I ended up getting removed them. And then eventually, when that feels good, I moved on to printing an actual like copy of the game from Make Playing Cards. It's short for MPC. These guys are like the cheapest way you can print like one copy of your game. I think, yeah, they come in this like nice little shrink wrap so you can rip it open. What's really nice about these is when you're making mock-ups, you're usually sleeving them into like a sleeve with like a random like Magic the Gathering card behind it, so you can't actually see the card back. Whereas NPC ones, you can actually see the card back, and they're like they feel like actual playing cards, and they're very thick, they're glossy, and they're nice. So you get to kind of hold them in your hand. It feels very surreal to have your cards printed on like really nice playing cards. Because then the next step would be to get the files ready for manufacture, and this is where Chilijack is at right now, where I really want to make sure that the balancing of my cards are in a good place, and I want to order a prototype from my manufacturer over there overseas, so that I can actually get the full game in a box like that together, and then yeah, hopefully I can bring that to like local game stores, ask people to try out the game and hear their thoughts about it. I could technically go to local game stores using this, or even the in-person playtest with like the mock-up cards, but I think I want the really nice like presentation of having the cards inside of the box and all that stuff. But yeah, it's definitely come a long way, and part of the checkpoints that I achieved, like when I got to the MPC print, or when I did print mock-ups, I would realize that there's a lot of things I needed to fix about the game, so I'd go back all the way to the TTS version and change a couple things. But yeah, I think I'm at a place where I could finally say that I have the right files that I need to send over to the manufacturer. But before I do this step, this last step right here, because the game is going to be separated as a base game that comes into this like box, and separate 3 expansions, I actually need to commission Zillaris for more art for those expansion tuck boxes, as well as I need to make a rulebook for the game now. I do have a rulebook on like a Google Doc at the moment, but I need to consolidate that into like a little booklet. So that's gonna be fun. I have to work on that next. But yeah, that's sort of where I am, and I think alongside that I will be doing some marketing stuff. So please expect to see a couple of new Chilijack videos starting from now on. I'm going to be making a new video every week to keep you guys updated on... I'm going to go probably more into the designs of the cards themselves, and even like uploading videos of people playing the game, perhaps in person. I'm not sure how that's going to work out. I still have to figure that out too. But yeah, the goal is maybe I'll play the game in person in real life, like with my friends, and we're gonna dare each other to eat something spicy, and the winner has to basically like eat like a habanero pepper or something like that, you know. Yeah, that'll be fun. Yeah, all that is what's gonna be the next step for Chilijack. And I just realized, Juniper, there was this really awesome comment that we saw in our previous video.
Yeah, I was was definitely gonna say, like, on the topic of getting your cards ready and designing your cards. Yeah, what was this comment that we got on the previous episode?
Yeah, it says at Locag said, if possible, I'm really interested to hear tips about the actual creation of cards itself. I'm currently toying around with ideas of creating a co-op card game, like Slay the Spire board game, but while I've made tons of notes, I'm already thinking of how much easier it would be to see the cards rather than just staring at tons of word files. So they could draw that on pen and paper, but I'd love to have some sort of system to make the similar designs quickly. Could you walk us through it? Thank you in advance. Yeah, really awesome comment, and we got you covered. We're gonna talk about how we design our cards for Divine Engage and Chilijack. They're actually made in very different ways, so hope that helps you know that there's multiple ways to go about it. There's not just like a single way to do it, but yeah. Could you kind of get us started, since we're already here on Figma? Like, we'd love to see how the Divine Engage's cards look and how are they created.
Oh yes, 100%. I mean, this is true. We for the podcast use Figma to put a bunch of images on the board and we can look at some wonderful things. However, Figma is I'm like a just fiend on Figma. You can do so much with it, and it's really a really powerful tool. And so all of my cards are managed in Figma, and I do a bunch of UI design stuff using it, and it's completely free, runs on the web, which is awesome. And so for Divine Engage, I have a mixture of commissioned art assets and UI vector stuff that I've done. I sort of mush that together into the card. And so how a kind of card is laid out and how I get started building one is I go into Figma and I create a frame. You can press F and click down to create these. These are like mini canvases in Figma. You can put stuff inside them, which is awesome, and they'll stay inside of the frame, which is really cool. So you can leverage that to make some good designs. And what I found was sizing my cards to be 750 pixels by 1050 within Figma matches the kind of TCG playing card size. And this is really good if you're making a physical game and you want to consider card sleeves and make sure that your card size matches the kind of typical size that would be printed. And so that's what I designed for, to make a frame, make it that size, and then I go and ask a bunch of really talented artists to cook on some ideas, and we sort of go back and forth. And sort of what I did for these card frames in the game is I sent over to this really awesome artist called Vivi. I sent over this sort of idea of, hey, here's this frame. I'm sort of looking to have the top part be the name. I'm considering to have certain icons, and I just used different vector shapes to depict kind of the different things within here. And I can sort of lay them out, I can give them colors, and this can really be great for an artist so they can understand different parameters of what you need. And so what Vivi shot back to me was this really, really beautiful card frame. And so my sort of silly green box turned into this wonderful nature card, and this was fantastic. And so what I would do is I'd take this sort of asset and I would whack it straight in to my frame. I leave the sort of back part like this so I can use it for a border, and I just kind of recolor it to fit like that. The next sort of part is testing the card art against an actual card. So I would start to build it, I would put sort of images into the frame like this, and sort of layer them through, and then I go, okay, great, this is what my card's going to look like. And then I test it out and I go, there's some feedback from players. The abilities are a little hard to read. Okay, let's play around. And so this is where I utilize Figma again and the vector art tools, but I create a little bit more of a detailed shape, which is the outline of my little ability box here, and I create it to be a darker color. Now, something you could do is you could go to your artist and say, hey, I've had some feedback. can I update this? But they might say, oh, I'm going to need to charge you an additional for edits and other things. And so when I can, I try to use my own vector art to be able to work with the assets that were commissioned, and try and make slight edits and things to make it better. So I've sort of made these little areas here to make it darker. So now the ability text is really easy to read. And so that's kind of how I make and build the cards. I take all the foundational assets from artists who do wonderful jobs on commissions, and then I just layer them through and use Figma for the rest of it. Something I did which was really fun was for the rune cost of cards, which are shown in the middle, I made a simple vector shape, and it's sort of just this blue square that I rotated to be a diamond shape. But I actually took this really cool Divine Chili art for my game's Divine Chili, and I just cropped it to be the painted texture and put it over the top with a bit of opacity, and this creates a little bit of texture onto the shape. And so I'm not an artist, but I love to apply textures and other things, so that's kind of my little secret technique to making things a little bit more interesting when I build cards, is finding textures and applying them on top with a little bit of opacity can create a lot of depth into what you're doing. That's what I've found so far. So that's sort of how I build cards, and I've given a little example here as well of another card that I made for the Hyperlight Breaker game jam, where we had to remake Hyperlight Breaker into a board game, and this is how I built the card out, and even the weapon is all made with vector art. So yeah, if you're sort of keen to get in and try and visualize your cards and build them from scratch, using the graphics tool, Figma is really awesome, and that's kind of how I do it.
Beautiful. Process looks, like vector art, for example, and using Figma to quickly ideate and get your UI iterate. I think this is definitely such a powerful tool to use to create your cards, and then exporting them all into the game. Yeah, this is fantastic. I'm not a good Figma user, but I definitely want to get more into it. I think this is like a really great tool for kind of working on anything related to UI, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think it's built for a lot of like web design stuff. So it's got a lot of like UI tools, which is super awesome. And I guess in terms of the comment from Lokag, sort of talked about Dexterous and Nandeck, and other things. Sounds like you've researched some cool tools. Using stuff like Dexterous and Nandeck are software that allow you to take the cards you've designed as images and be able to kind of quickly generate them, and usually put them into places like Tabletop Sim, or just kind of generate them out to be printed as well. And I do like those tools, and I would recommend Dexterous. I did actually try this on an early version for DE, and it did make it really fast to make simple versions. But what I found was those versions had to be kind of like my green box here. They couldn't really be more complicated, and I had to kind of sacrifice some visuals when using those tools on the rune cost, because it was too hard to generate those rune costs because they were too dynamic. So instead I just used text, and I would just write the rune cost. But it worked amazing for playtesting. So if you do want to use tools like those, I think they're really awesome. I've used them before, and I think it's a really fast way to get early versions of your game tested, which is really cool. But yeah, I think there's heaps of ways of building cards. Some people have a really cool physical process as well, which is really awesome. I'm super curious, Dan, because your journey in making Chilijack has been really artsy, which I love. I'm super curious how the art Chilijack is made. How do you go about working on your game?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to kind of show the process of that. So there's two parts to it. One is I draw the art. So quick story about Chilijack. When I first started working on Chilijack, I knew that I couldn't afford to hire an artist. And I, at the same time, wanted like a lot of creative control over the art direction itself. And just going back and forth with the artist, I knew that there were going to be some times where I wasn't happy with the art and I would have to kind of send over feedback and wait for that to come back to me so that I would like change it. So I decided to draw the art myself, and my partner bought me an iPad and I bought a program called Procreate on it. Procreate is very affordable. So I started trying to practice drawing on there. Originally, I started with this one true chili in the picture that you see in the middle right here. I drew this one really simple like mascot for my game where I felt like I could duplicate this and dress it up in a lot of different ways. Like in this other picture here, we have Chilina. I just gave it longer hair, a skirt, and a bag. Yeah, that's actually just a duplicated file of chili from the chili template that you see over here. And you'll notice any other chilies like the chili nuke or Mount Chili, they all have the same kind of face that the chili template has as well. I have them separated onto different layers. And what I do is I basically use the same color palette when drawing these, but I'll kind of like either duplicate them so that they're like a chili version of like these objects around the world. That way I would never run out of cards to design. And yeah, it just sort of kind of turned into this process of very quick art that I can draw to make chilies. Especially because I'm not really good at drawing. I'm not a professional artist. So yeah, setting my art, I would say like style to be casual, quick and friendly looking was something that I did. And it just kind of helped make my cards really quickly. You see on this right here, I have a background image file. So I'll draw the chilies, but I also need a background for the art as well. So I'll make another file with a bunch of different layers that have slightly more blurry and like bigger strokes of brushes so that they're not as attention grabbing as the chili in the foreground. And once I'm done with these two art files, I'll export them onto as PNG files and actually send it over to my MacBook, which I have. I'm currently screen sharing right now on the other monitor. I don't know if you can see Photoshop on that monitor. Okay, so yeah, this is Photoshop, and this is how I create my chili cards. So earlier on, when I tried to send over my files to MPC and my current manufacturer, Hero Time, I talked to them and they actually sent me these guidelines for how big certain card files should be and what are like the bleed sizes and things like that. So I started with like a basic template, but then I actually probably over like the course of 2 years, I almost made like 4 different templates for cards. I really like creating a template PSD like Photoshop file and then using that to swap out certain elements on it. So even though it takes up a lot of time to kind of set up a right template from the start, it actually, I feel like it ends up saving you a lot of time because it makes a lot of like manual work of having to like move assets around or change certain abilities or things like that very easy, because once you have everything set up, it's actually very, very cool and like clean to work on. So let me show you what this template kind of looks like. On the very top, you have this cutting lines here, and this is, if I enable it, this is directly a file that they sent me from Hero Time, my manufacturer. It shows these like red lines, green lines. The red line is where the card is expected to be cut, and any colors outside of this line is going to be expected to kind of like be cut there. So when you're originally like preparing your files, you actually kind of want your background to actually extend outside of that bleed area there, cutting line area. So sometimes when printers are printing, they're not always like perfect, and they'll sometimes cut or like they'll shift slightly over to the left or to the right. But that's okay because you've already prepared for that and you're okay with some of this art moving slightly more over to the left or to the right. but anything inside of the green is where any important ability text or numbers and stuff should be living inside. So you can see here my drilling type is actually just on top of that green line there. If it was any lower, there's a chance that it could actually move and get cut sometimes. So using this to kind of determine, okay, this is where my art should be, and sort of like looking forward before I send over my files to the manufacturer to actually print them. And I can usually just disable this, and when I'm uploading these cards onto Tabletop Simulator or putting them in person, I'll just disable these two views so that I see transparent background right here. Down here we have these I tried to organize them into very simple like folder system here, but this includes all of my texts. So this has my name. So if I'm designing a new chili, for example, I will take a file like Chili Dragon, and I will usually change the name into example chili or something like that. And then when I save the file, I'll save it as a example chili in my Photoshop folder, where I have all the other chilies alphabetically organized right here, and then save that as a separate file. And yeah, I'll edit the heat, so I could easily give this like 1 heat or 5 heat, so it's consistent and in the same place every time. Even the abilities, I'm able to kind of write down new abilities. When this chili enters your plate, blah blah blah, right? I also have the colors for every ability like lined up here. If I hover over some of the colors, I can show you this one is for the keyword return, this one is for the keyword swap, this is for dining, for grilled, mildest, hottest. So yeah, it's just always there for me to easily iterate and write new abilities like this, and just kind of color them like that, like this, and I'm done, right? Down here I have a separate line right here that I can toggle on or off for flavor text, and then the actual flavor text itself, like so. And then if I kind of open up this next thing here, this includes images, which has backgrounds in it. So I can actually toggle on the heat type to be cold or hot. Sometimes I'll have negative chili, so if I have a negative chili, I'll just turn this on rather than this other one. And then even the chili type, I can just toggle on a bunch of images at the same time. That's the old special one. So that if I want to design a flavored chili, I'll turn off the grilling and then turn on the flavored one. Going into the flavor, there's this text here, the icon here. The card box is actually part of the box, and then the whole UI on the back is also part of it as well. And then last but not least, the art. So this is where I would usually be dragging in new art files. So if I'm working on a new chili, for example, I'll go to my Finder, go to Downloads, and yeah, like this Choo Choo chili, for example, I'll just drag them in. And yeah, my background's usually always going to be at the same size because my art file is set up to be the same size, but I'll have to usually kind of resize my chili art like this, and then just put it onto the art like that. So yeah, and then once I'm done, I would save this as a new chili. And then after I'm done, I would export it as a PNG file. And after that, I would have all these chilies ready to go and put into a Tabletop Simulator to be tested. So anytime I have to go back and let's say that this example chili is too powerful, for example, I can go back to this file and go to my text and just kind of tone down some of the heat on it, or maybe I could update the ability. So it just makes for a very fast way to work on cards. It just requires a little bit of setup at the beginning so you can do this down the line. But definitely I learned a lot of lessons from reaching out to my manufacturer and actually learning about the card size and the templates that they need to print out the cards. So yeah, would highly recommend this process if you're looking forward to eventually talking with a manufacturer and getting your cards printed through them, because yeah,
that's some good advice. Yeah, don't like over-engineer and then you find out like all your designs fail to hit print lines and you're like, oh my god. Yeah, that's some genius level advice. love this dragon rework. Turned into a train. It's flavored now. What a great
This
rework
is
of the dragon.
fantastic rework. Yeah, this card would never see the light of day. Oh my god.
Yeah, dev up exclusive chili card. I like your organization of your file too. It's so tidy. It's so easy to like flick through.
Man, this is. I made it this way because there was a time where it wasn't like this, and it just made it so hard for me to track where anything was, and there were like 30 layers or something, and I'm like, oh my god, I just wish that there was a cleaner, faster way to do it. So oftentimes I usually would work on like 100 chilies, and then I'd be like, actually I need to update the template. So I would make a new template and then make all the chilies over again in that new template, and that would take like a whole week to do, but it's definitely worth it. Like, if you could help it, actually maybe from the start do like basic UI design from like Figma, and then once you're happy with your cards and how everything's laid out, you could look into doing this on Photoshop, where you set up a template, and actually it makes it just like super easier to down the line, like when you're producing your files, so that you can send it over to your manufacturer. Yeah, this is one way to do it, but it's not the only way to do it. I'm sure other card game designers also use other softwares like Adobe Illustrator, for example. I know that Illustrator handles vector files as well. Yeah, it's just one way to go about it. So I hope that answers your question. And if anyone in the comments can also post whether that was helpful, or if you would like to see other aspects of, how do we prepare files, or how do we play test with these things, or anything related to testing or designing of games, please let us know. Juni and I really love this question, and we'd love to answer more of your questions like this in the next upcoming episodes.
Please do. And if you have your own awesome ways of developing cards, or if you have your own feedback, drop in some comments as well on what you did. If you are making your own card game project, it'd be really cool to hear other people's stories on what you guys have done. It'd be really cool. I think like it's quite the journey that we're going on here, and I feel like perspective and feedback and opinions and just sharing that through is, I feel like, essential in our climate utility.
Absolutely.
And so it's always great when we can craft up communities where we can all sort of help each other climb up together. So I love doing this podcast. It's so much fun, and I'm so glad that we can get into the swing of things with climbing again. I will not be flashing any hard drives anytime soon, so expect this episode and the next ones to be coming out a little bit more smoothly in the coming weeks. But our next steps, you're going to be seeing a lot more from us. I hope you're ready. With
I love
content and a lot of fun stuff. I'm super excited. There's so much on the horizon. New peaks to discover, Dan. We're gonna hit the next peak. Yes,
man. And this upcoming peak is gonna be so exciting. I can't wait to playtest Divine Engage and really just try to break into designing my own card, like my deck, and playing against other people. That's really what card games are all about. Like that competitive feeling of, I want to make something cool, and I hope that I can beat this other person who has the same access to the resources that I have, but it's like using the strategies, and you're big braining them, and it's so fun. And I can't wait to kind of climb over this next peak, and I think we're gonna have a lot to share in the next episode.
Oh yes we are. It's gonna be great. If you're in that competitive spirit, then Lunar Festival is coming up, so come get some practice in at the tavern. Come play Divine Engage. It's going to be a lot of fun. And if you're hungry, or you're just feeling like you want to cook up a really, really good, fun party game with some peeps, then looking for playtesters in Chilijack. Dan, what kind of playtesting can people expect if they were to join the Discord down below in the description? What kind of fun are we gonna have?
We got bi-weekly playtests, so 2 times every week. They're both in the morning for PST time zone, Pacific time zone. But I could try to spin up extra playtest sessions throughout certain evenings because I think my schedule is freeing up a lot more, and now I'm actively trying to get a lot more playtesting done. So yeah, expect to see more playtest times there. Basically, whenever you join, if we have a lot of people, we might be able to get 2v2 fights in there. So you'll be teaming up with another person and you're facing against 2 other people. Or if you want to test out like this chaotic mode where you could do free-for-all for 3 or 4 players. And you could also compete in like a 1v1 really high stakes intense match where your opponent is trying to sabotage you and you're trying to sabotage each other. So that's also fun. So any of those 3 modes we can play test using all of our 145 chilies, and your feedback is going to be directly impacting the design and the balance of the game. So yeah, we would really appreciate to see you in our Discord servers. If you join, please come and say hi. Yeah, we'd love to see you there.
Yo, oh man, that excites me. I'm ready to cook. That's so much fun. Yo,
Yeah.
It's gonna be amazing. I'm gonna have so much fun. Well, that is gonna be it for Dev Up today. Thank you for joining us on the climb up this game dev mountain. We will be back next week to talk about our crazy adventures crafting up these card games, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. So until then, we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
See you guys next time. Thank you for joining us. See ya.